All right. I know we'll have a few others joining here pretty soon, but I'm going to get underway. Well, I appreciate everybody for joining me today. My name is Mitch Cook. I'm a financial advisor here at Excel Wealth Management. Today's presentation, we're going to be going through smart strategies for juggling debt and education cost. And it is a bigger topic than this. I mean, some of the key items that we're really going to highlight and discuss, it's really setting down and understanding your financial priorities. And then we'll go through what are some of those strategies to reduce the debt. And then if we do get that, I would say the proper foundation in place, then start looking at the other additional cost or goals that we're looking at, whether it's college savings goals, whether it's looking for saving for other things. It could be a car, but really what it comes down to is creating that plan that really supports both your financial health as well as your household. And that could be including your children's future. Before I get started, just like anything else, wonderful disclosures. These webinars are meant for education purposes only and not really as direct advice for each of you in your individual situation. But one of the things that we do offer after the seminar, if you do want to schedule more of an individual meeting, we can set up that time with you and go through a little bit more in your own personal situation. As mentioned, this is part of our roadmap series. We have a lot of other financial roadmap series that we've done. Many of the topics that we'll highlight today will actually will be an overview or a quick high level on certain things that we've already discussed. You can always go back to our other webinar series and get into more details. One of the things before I get started, a little bit of a housekeeping item. If you do have any questions, definitely feel free to tap that Q&A box and you can ask your questions along the way. We will reserve those questions until the end to answer them for you, just so that this is a recorded presentation. Okay. One of the biggest things that we understand is that many parents and households feel like they're having to choose between saving, paying off debt, trying to really balance a lot of this. And the good news is that you usually don't have to choose one or the other. But the key is that you need to make sure that it's working out and having that balance in place. Prioritizing your financial goals is going to be this first step, especially building that financial foundation. And then really hitting and understanding what are the strategies to have that debt management. And then exploring other options. Once we have that good foundation, how do we explore other options if part of that goal is to help with college savings? How does that get incorporated? But then making sure that we create a plan that works for your family. Just know that you're not alone when it comes to some of these items and what are some of those questions along the way. And these are questions many of us have. Should I pay off debt before saving for college? Is that something that is more beneficial? Should I pause or stop retirement savings to help manage some of these other items, whether it's the debt as well as additional savings? How much should I save? That's a great question. I mean, everyone has a little bit of a different number. What if college is a few years away from my kids? How am I going to help with that? What if my kid doesn't go to college and I have this savings account set up for them? How do I manage that? There's a lot of things that you could be asking your questions on. And these are things that a lot of us have. But ultimately, what it comes down to is just making sure that we understand how that balance works within the household. And having a balance in multiple areas is going to be important, because if we do start to offload too much in one area, it could get out of whack. And in having too much focus could make it very difficult to get that back in balance. One of the biggest things that we do take a look at is understanding at the core, what does this mean? And at the core is it starts with you. You need to actually focus on what is right and appropriately balanced for you first before we start adding more to your overall financial picture. Knowing the hierarchy of your financial needs is a great way to understand how to have a solid foundation. The bottom of this pyramid is making sure that you have a good understanding of your income and those basic needs, especially what we need to have so we can build upon that. If we don't have a good foundation, a lot of things will start to crumble, and eventually that weight will eventually cause maybe your foundation to collapse. So looking at that cash flow and the basic needs as creating that as step number one, looking at that financial safety net, having an emergency fund, and then we can start building on. Whether it's that first part to the retirement savings, making sure that we have good management to our debt. Once we have those key things in place, then we can start layering in other things, such as looking at college education or college costs for children, looking at adding in any potential costs that we may have down the road. This is probably one of the biggest things to look at is how do we establish those things at the bottom so we don't have other things collapse beneath us. As I mentioned, setting that foundation is going to be important. So many of the things that I will highlight here are in past webinars, so I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I just at least want to make sure that we hit on those key things to have a good foundation in place before we start layering in other things. So having that monthly budget, making it easy and adjustable. Utilize the 50-30-20 rule. 50% for the needs, making sure that you have those household expenses covered, 30% for those wants and are for saving, and then 20% kind of for the entertainment and wants. Building that emergency fund, having that $1,000 minimum to start out, 3 to 6 months of expenses, and then taking advantage of benefits such as an employer match. If your company provides a match, make sure you're taking advantage of that free money or any of the free money that your company may have available. And then automate as much as you can. Because as you continue on in life, it's going to get busier. Those automations are going to help you maintain that solid financial foundation. One of those key things that we want to make sure that we're managing along the way is debt. And there are two kinds of debt that we want to make sure that we're taking care of. We have good debt and bad debt. Your good debt is going to be things that are kind of invested for that future. So mortgages, we know that's an investment. Student loans, that's an investment for you to get a better job, having that higher education. Business loans, interest-free loans, these are what we consider good debt. Bad debt is going to be that credit card, high interest loan type of debts, payday loans, and making sure that we're paying those off and we're not getting too overwhelmed with those. And if you do have an overwhelming amount of bad debt, let's make sure that we get that managed and under control. And again, we do have previous webinars that can help go through a little bit details on additional strategies. But the biggest thing is we want to make sure we're putting up guardrails. We're not adding to that. The impulse purchases, online purchases are pretty easy, but making sure that we do put those guardrails up, making sure that we're taking care of the high interest debt first could be one of the biggest things to look at. Credit card debt could be one of those. And then making sure that we have strategies in place to pay off if we have quite a bit of bad debt. There are two key payoff methods. We have the snowball or avalanche. Snowball is looking at the smallest debt. That's that bad debt first. You pay that off and then you eventually work your way up onto a larger one. Avalanche is looking at your high interest debt first and trying to get that paid off. So again, we do have quite a few of additional strategies that we can definitely go through for you. Knowing and understanding how to prioritize your personal finances is going to be important. And I stress you. And so establishing those priorities from the beginning as part of that foundation to what you want to get at is going to be a key part to the success. But setting the realistic expectations, that's going to be part of it. Getting that emergency fund in place is part of kind of that first priority, making sure we have some type of safety net. Then taking advantage of benefits. Like I said, that employer match would be a big one. Managing that high interest debt. All of this is going to be part of those key priorities for you as a household. We all want to help out our kids. That is something that most of us want to have, that lessen that financial burden down the road for them. But we also need to know at what cost. If we do separate out and we start siphoning any other savings away from where there are core priorities for us, we need to know what that impact down the road is going to be for us as well. So once we have a good foundation in place, once we've set those, balancing the budget, making sure that our income needs are meeting our debt requirements, we have that automations in place for retirement savings. Now we have a good handle of really understanding if we do want to look at setting aside for other things such as college and what that college expense could look like. And it's understanding what that expense could be. Some of the, I would say, startling statistics is taking a look at what that college cost has actually gone up over the last 20 years. Right now in the state of Iowa, and there's other resources, more than happy to get information out there for other states, but in the state of Iowa, the cost of a public university is just shy of $25,000. A private university is almost $50,000. This overall increase is almost 200% up over the last 20 years. And so it's looking at, what does that mean? If this is something that we would really like to help lessen that burden for our kids, we also need to make sure that we're setting the right expectations for them too. And that may be not paying 100% for their college. And so that could be looking at only 25%, maybe 50%, or maybe you may not have the opportunity to really pay for them. And that really comes to other things that we need to be looking at. And that is strategies to lower the expenses. There are so many other programs, which we'll go through in the next slide, so many other ways that we can help our children in guiding them on reducing that college potential expense without impacting our priorities when it comes to our financial goals. And that could be scholarships, grants, work study. And then there are other college savings options out there. So once we do have a good foundation in place, if we are looking to save in addition and helping them out, we'll go through some of those college savings options here. So what are some of those smart strategies? And these are things that can easily be done. So if you have kids that are in high school and you're looking at ways that they could help reduce that burden down the road, take in AP courses. If that is an option for your children to do, take as many as some of those base college classes in high school that could lessen that expense down the road. Start at a community college. I have family members that's exactly what they did. They started in a community college, got the first 2 years out, those transferred into a 4-year college, and it cut their cost substantially by doing that. So those are things to definitely look at. The two biggest ones that seem to be missed opportunities quite a bit is applying for scholarships, and whether it's scholarships, financial grants, financial aid, if that's an option, taking advantage of those things. And then, of course, in college, work study, doing those particular things. I can tell you from a personal situation, these are the things that helped me pay for college. My parents, as much as they wanted to, they weren't able to help pay for my schooling. The income wasn't there. And so they told me early on, me and my siblings early on, if we want to go to college, we're going to have to set aside some money. We're going to have to apply for these scholarships and grants. And this nearly, by doing this, cut out almost 3/4 of my college expenses because of those things that was given to me. Now, if you are in a position to start saving for college, there are a number of ways to help your children out. I kind of divide this between two different ways. The top is really what we look at the top four ways that we tend to see individuals pay for college. We have 529 plans, we have Covidall, we have Roth, and we have custody accounts. The most utilized one is going to be a 529 account. And the 529 account, this allows you to set aside money and get certain state tax benefits. In the state of Iowa, typically up to about $6,100 per individual per parent. So you have the ability to save on state taxes inside the 529. That money will grow tax deferred. And as long as it's used for college expenses, any of that money you will be able to receive tax free. One of the questions we do get is that account only utilized for higher education? Most recently, we've received some new regulations that as long as that account's been in place for 15 years, if there's any money left in that account, instead of transferring it to another or having to use it for higher education, you could have the opportunity to roll that to a Roth IRA. So there are ways that it can be converted to a Roth IRA. There are certain limitations on that, but just know that is now a capability. I do get asked, the Roth IRA, how does that work? If your child is working, you can set up a custody Roth IRA account and you can put contributions in there up to the $7,000 limit, as long as they made at least $7,000 in income. So those are ways that you can definitely help save for college. The custody account, that gives you the ability with no limitations. You can put contributions into a custody account. It doesn't have to be used for any kind of college planning, neither does the Roth IRA. It's just, when it comes down to the custody account, it is a taxable account, so there could be potential taxes on any of the capital gains. And then there are other ways to save for college. Some of those could be a high yield savings account. There are prepaid tuition plans. Your company may offer certain type of benefits. There are ways to gift and receive contributions, whether from family and friends, and then savings bonds. So there's a lot of different various options. But again, I at least wanted to make sure to share there are quite a few savings options available. If you do have that ability to start saving early, here's how that adds up. In this scenario, I just wanted to provide an example. We have setting aside $100 a month, $200 a month, or $300 a month over 18 years. And really, what does that adding up look like? And in this type of scenario, we did a 7% annualized return over those 18 years. And if we look at each one, so that $100 a month, it adds up to almost $43,000, which is almost twice as much of what the contribution you put into it. The same is 200. That 200 would almost be 86,000. And then $300 a month would almost be nearly $130,000. If we look back at what that educational cost looks like between the public and private school, if we wanted to have a general idea of really from a funding perspective, where we wanted to be would probably be more in that $300 per month if we wanted to help support what I would call pretty close to 100% of a college tuition. So just know that $300 is what we'd be looking at. But one of the things that I want to make sure we understand is if you're in a position right now where you're thinking, well, what if I just pause just for a short period of time in saving for my retirement and I help my children pay for college? This part is the area that I want to share with you is what that impact would really look like. And while college education may be important, so is the value of your time and savings. And the key is time. If we take a look at each one of those scenarios and we identify and say, okay, I've been putting away $100 a month. Instead of doing that in retirement for 18 years, I'm going to stop and I'm going to put that more for my child's college savings. Well, that impact to your retirement savings is going to be almost $61,000 to your retirement savings. But that's not the full impact. The bigger impact is going to be even further into retirement. That 61,000 is that lost opportunity in retirement savings until you're 65, not the lost opportunity after 65 in the growth in the account. But if we truly look at more of a realistic, that would be the $300 per month. If someone really wants to set aside money to help pay for their child's college along the way, it's really going to be closer to that $300 a month. Now we're looking at almost $200,000 in lost retirement savings that needs to be built up. That is a pretty substantial loss. Understanding that time, understanding that compound, and what does that mean for retirement? That could mean a couple things. It could mean you might have to work a little bit longer to make up that difference. Or you may need to adjust what you're going to be able to afford in retirement if we don't do it right. So it's understanding what those priorities look like for you first, and then determining once we have those priorities, once we have that foundation in place, how can I help reduce or remove any additional cost or burden for others? If you are in a position where this is something that is important for you and your household to start looking at that college planning, there's a lot of great resources available. Iowa has a number of websites available that you can access information on. There's the Iowa Education Resource online. There's great funding, coaching information, scholarship details that could be available at your fingertips. There are even vendors out there such as Principal Financial Group. If your 401k plan is with Principal today, they have something called their milestone program. So if you were to access your online account at Principal Financial Group, you can go underneath, add additional resources. The milestone program also has additional scholarships that you could potentially sign up for your children. And then, of course, the high school guidance counselor. They have a lot of great resources that could be readily available for your children today. So that could be a great resource to look at. So what are some of the key action steps? First, set realistic goals and expectations. This is probably one of the most important things. While we all have hopes for the future on what we would like to accomplish with our financial goals, life and finances can change along the way, and we just need to make adjustments that work best for us first. Next, we always have to have a solid foundation. That is going to be key. Keeping that solid foundation keeps everything else from collapsing. I'm not saying that it doesn't work by doing some of these other things. If you remember that hierarchy chart that I shared, but keeping that solid foundation, making sure that we have a good budget in place, we're setting up those automations, we have that emergency fund. Those are going to be some of those key things to look at. And then, of course, don't let guilt or emotions drive your decisions. As mentioned, your income and your money is yours first. So pay yourself first. Others are not entitled to your money, especially if you have a financial priority that you need to meet first. That is important, is knowing that you are in control of this money, not others. And when it really does come down to having others that you do want to help from a financial priority, then involving your children as part of that plan, but also setting those realistic expectations with them. I know my parents would have loved to have helped us pay for college. But they told us early on that that wasn't something that they were going to be able to help manage. But what they were able to provide to us was making sure that we knew what that expectation was going to look like. If we wanted to set aside money for college, then that was going to be one of our priorities, and they would help us with that if we got a job. They also helped us find scholarships and grants. At the time, we didn't nearly have the level of resources available at our fingertips. So there's a lot of things that I know now that I can help with my children down the road. So it is part of that involvement to make sure that those expectations are discussed. And if any changes do come along the way, if down the road you are able to help pay for some of that, that's going to be a cherry on top for them. But it's at least making sure to set the parameters, those priorities, those financial priorities up right the first time. With that, I'm going to open it up to any Q&A. I know I went through quite a few things. We have a lot of great information that we have with other webinars that we've had, whether it's the budgeting, whether it's the debt management. Those are things that we have readily available at your fingertips too.
Currently, we don't have any questions in the Q&A, but if anyone does have any questions, please use it. And we'd be happy to answer those for you.
Absolutely. This is definitely one of those areas where so many questions come up. I know one question that recently came up to me is, does it make sense for me to take a loan against my 401k account to help pay for college debt for my children? And I think that's a great question. The answer typically is no. I mean, because again, that is impacting you on what your future savings is going to look like. The amount of time that you have to set aside and take advantage of the missed opportunity growth is a lot smaller from a time. With your child, if we're able to add in some of these strategies to help reduce some of the impact, along with their time is much longer to help pay off that college debt than your time that you would have for retirement savings. So that I know is a recent question that has come up.
We have a question.
Yeah.
They said they were not able to save for their daughter's college, but they're in college now. What advice do you have on how to help them while they're currently in college?
That is a great question. I mean, there's so many different things that we can discuss. Some of the things that I would, definitely want to be aware of is, are they working? Are there things that they're doing today to help offset some of those expenses? If they are working, if this is something that you do want to offer some assistance and help with, you could always help by setting up maybe a Roth IRA and help contribute to a Roth IRA along the way. That could potentially pay off some of that debt. So there are certain strategies based on your current child situation. Along the way in college, every year there could be grants or scholarships available to them that they may not even be aware of, that they could be taken advantage of right now. If you're right on the edge of financial aid, FAFSA, some of the things that you could be exploring is looking at ways to reduce your income to help pass for certain financial aid. So again, depending on what your situation is, more than happy to schedule a little bit more time with you to get a little bit more details of your personal situation. But those are some of the things that we would look at.
That's the only question we have.
Okay. Well, if anybody does have any questions, or if this is something where you want to have a little bit of a further conversation on, more than happy to schedule some time with you. After the webinar series is over, you will get a survey and get that opportunity to be able to schedule a meeting with one of our advisors. I definitely appreciate your time today, and have a great day.